Welcome everybody tonight to the INE Network broadcast. My name is Lou Jensen, and we're welcome. We've got a full house again as usual, and the weekly gathering of the INE Network is to help people discover, develop, master, and share some talent, some inclination that you have. We've been meeting together for 9 years, and all of us in the show tonight know each other really well. We're friends, and we've been working on our own individual talents for quite a long time. Tonight's broadcast is how to spot opportunity, and I'm going to come at it from a little different direction than I have in the past, so hopefully there'll be something here that'll light a fire for you individually. I'm cleaning out things and trying to rearrange stuff in my personal life, and I found this yesterday, and I wanted to show it to you. This is Michael Thane's work, and I thought we'd lost it. Hadn't seen it for a while, and I was just heartsick because I couldn't find anywhere, and then all of a sudden, bingo, there it is. And what it is a ball of bone. This is just a chunk of bone that Pier 1 sells these every now and again, and I think now's the time when they're there. It's a Christmas type thing, but it's made, I think these are made in India, and it's just bone, little pieces of bone. But Michael started doing tattoo copies of things that had a Renaissance kind of flavor and look to it. Dragons and swordsmen and kings and stuff like that, and castles. And his mother had an antique shop like that, where she sold those kinds of things. And Michael started carving these bone balls, and then he started carving boxes, wooden boxes, and he would take that tattoo flash and put it on everything. And it was so fun because he said he could make about $1,000 a weekend. He would do these boxes and sell them engraved with the patterns, and he'd spill the pattern over the edges. And he was getting about $250 a piece, and he says, I could sell 4 of them a weekend. And he said, boy, was I just having a ball. Then one day the Dungeons and Dragons guy walked past his booth and saw what he had and started having Michael do game card boxes engraved like that for his personal gifts, his personal thank yous that were going out across, who knows, all over the world. And that, to me, is kind of what leads into what I want to share with you tonight. I got the chance to talk with a young lady today that was 22 years old, and she's just getting her life started. And oh, it's so hard because you want to just pull her head open and say, oh, think of this, think of this, think of this now, but at 22 you just don't see a bigger picture. And then I had a chance to visit with a doctor today that he was 37 years old. And with both of them, I always like to use the excuse of how much have you learned from 12 to 22, and then how much have you learned from 25 to 35, 37. Those periods of time, 10-year chunks of time, is when you learn, you can see more of what you've actually learned. And it's pretty startling to know that from 50 to 60 you learned a lot, and from 60 to 70 you learn even more. And I just think, well, I don't know how each of us absorb new ideas, new thoughts, and new attitudes. But I can guarantee you, if you spot opportunity, that's yours. Something that you have come up with, something that you contrived, something that you composed. It's exclusively yours, and it blesses the life or impacts the lives of others. You're set. You can do that the rest of your days, because that's what Tam and I've done here, is just stay with it for all this time. And you try this thing and see if that'll work, and then you try something else and see if that'll work, and then you go buy a Lindsay engraver and try that and see if you can make that work. There's just so much fun stuff to play with here once you've spotted this opportunity stuff. And I know all of you really well watching tonight. I don't know everybody out on the backside watching on YouTube or on my Google Plus account. there's quite a following now that do pick up our shows, and it's mostly for each of you that are still searching for what could I do with what time I have left. To me, that's the really important question. And so as I crank up the show tonight and fire it up, I hope you'll see something here that'll trigger a thought for you, and it'll be something that you really enjoy playing with the rest of your days. I'm absolutely certain that opportunity is everywhere. The number of people that have played with the carved eggshell, other than what I've done, is such a wide range now. I started carving and playing with this whole concept clear back in 1977, and it's just gone on and gone on, and even in this specific area there just seems to be no end to opportunity. Once a person says, I like doing that, I think I'll play with eggshells. But it's not just that. And the real trick to it all is to try. To get involved and dig into it enough that you're aggressive enough that you've even got a chance to succeed. Yes, failing along the way is not exactly a fun experience, but as long as you keep coming back to it, there is no failure. And most of what I preach now is what are you going to do with the rest of your life? How can I make it fun? How can I make it satisfying? What can I do? What can I produce? And to me, a hobbypreneur is the smartest way to approach a business opportunity that there is. I spent a lot of time sharing our story because it went from my story very quickly to what was going on in other people's lives. And the whole idea of doing these webinars is how this might then affect your story. We're going to start doing a probing opportunity to find out the really good stories that have happened now in 40 years. There'll be the 40th year anniversary in a couple more years. And I want to have a book that contains an encyclopedia of the stories. So if you've had a good story with custom personalization, it's time to start polishing it up and getting it ready, because I want to include everybody's stories in that next go around. We put together the Discovery Studio because if you've got a studio, which is your most centered place, and you're working on your own things, invariably it spills over and mixes with other people's things so quickly and so easily. And to me, the idea that there's something really strong happening here, the hobby is just worth it all to find something you absolutely love doing. And I prefer hands-on opportunities, hands-on hobbies. But I just still think it's the absolute best way to start an enterprise. I just don't see another good way to accomplish that. I remember distinctly when I saw this photograph on the web the first time. And we have a place, there are places in the world where the propensity of electricity or lightning striking is extremely high. And we have a place called Blue Mountain out east of Vernal that gets 1,000 hits an hour. And when you see this kind of thing going on and realize that there's something here that does attract, it's just really, really obvious. And to me, that's like spotting opportunity and figuring out, okay, what's going on? Why? What is happening here? What am I looking at? Okay. And I apologize to the entire audience who might be sitting in tonight for any opportunity that you might be interested in. We're going to explore the handmade world pretty aggressively because that's our niche. But I think the principles and concepts apply to any idea generating capability. Creativity is still the answer to the solution to all the problems around us. And And unless you can kind of do it more by pattern instead of maybe sort of kind of, you really zero in on something that you're good at, something that you enjoy. That what you ought to do moment that someone else is saying to you is what I think you should specialize in. And when you can see something that really turns you on and say, I want to try that, I want to take a shot at that, see if I can do that same kind of rendering. To custom compose this and put this together took Keith nearly 2 years. And yet all we have to do is take a pattern and render it, and we've got something visually to help us learn from, because he's already bothered to do it. Now you're changing how you're learning. And what I want you to do is get in the same position that Keith Hone did with this idea, but then have it be yours. Something that you do, that you take it far enough to where you've mastered the level of whatever it takes to produce it, and then you begin sharing and teaching that. It's about the best way to grow old, I think, there is on the planet. Similar idea here with an eggshell. Most of humanity don't dig at this very much. They don't see themselves with having a degree of creativity. And yet, how can it not be when you're playing on the web now and you see what's going on Google+, if you're not following Martin Shervington, you really should. This kid really has a good head on him. And he's constantly looking at new and different angles and ways to help us learn how to use it. And if you're kind of telling yourself you're going to be left behind, I was with a lady in the store this week, and she was talking to the young man, and she just kind of commandeered the conversation away from me and just was literally butted in. And then she just finally just says, well, I'm so frustrated with all the new technology. There's no way I'm going to touch that. I'm not going to do anything with it. So if your head is in that position and in that situation, you're not likely to move in a particular direction that can actually start to help you achieve. And what Alex constantly brings up in his programs are this maximum productivity with minimum amount of effort. And I always choke at that right there, because I just don't see how you can expect a great deal of productivity with almost no effort. Maybe I just come out of the wrong generation, but to me, anything new requires a lot, an awful lot. And it always starts with what consumes your mind. What consumes your mind will control your life. And it's so interesting to me that everyone in the world can see opportunity after it's passed by. We're going to talk tonight about the spotting of the opportunity for you that's out in front of your life, something that you have not yet seen or heard, okay? And it's so significant that you figure that out. There's just no way for you to get around it. And I think the difference is the sequencing of your ideas. One pearl is one pearl, but one pearl strung on a strand into a necklace is a string of pearls, and now you've got a significant piece of jewelry. And what we have to do individually is take these thoughts and ideas and tie them into something else. It is exactly like weaving of a tapestry. You take the threads and weave it in and out until you get the picture to show up. And most don't look at innovation that way. They don't see opportunity that way. They don't even, it just goes right over their head, because they're not thinking about capturing and sequencing the ideas. The purpose of the ID Network is to discover that you've got something, develop that something, master something out of this picture. The mastery of something just changes everything in your life. And then the last is learning to share it. And it was fun for me today to go through that sequence with this young girl and have a chance, because I got about a half hour to talk to her. And she seemed very interested. Now, when I pass through somebody's life like that, I don't ever know. I never know. I have no way to follow up with her at all. I didn't expect to. It was just one of those spontaneous moments. You get to advise somebody and younger and help them maybe see a few things. But boy, she sure lit up when I talked about when you get something to master that you've mastered, a degree of expression of art, then you learn to share that. That's the purpose of your life. That's why you were born. So as we take on tonight how to find your opportunities and looking for an intersection for you to make some use of that, I wanted to start out with a concept that we've used in our network for a long time. If you say to yourself or you say to a customer, or you can visualize that this this something needs just one more thing. And I kind of wanted to pick on kitchen utensils to start with because it's such a pervasive product and such a pervasive place in the market. They're all handcrafted, and there's quite I would love to know how many people doing it. Jason's on Google Plus all the time with his now from Maine, but there's a lot. Chris and Joe and I saw somebody at the fair from where were they? Oh, from Arizona. They would come up there from Arizona to do this Utah show. And they make this stuff and then they market it. And if you can look at something and say, it just needs one more thing, what could you hand engrave right there that would change the marketing potential of this particular item? Now, I've nudged Jason for a year to have him figure this out, but he's not spotted it even yet. And so if you're on tonight, Jason, listen up. He hasn't figured it out. Because why do people buy wooden utensils to cook with? Cooking is a huge part of our life, a huge part of our world. And some people really, really, really like to cook. And apparently a wooden utensil has all kinds of properties that a metal one does not have, because this has been how we've made utensils for how long? Centuries. And yet still there are people that spend all of their time producing this stuff, except it just needs one more thing. And if you're the person that could put that on there, that custom personalization, there's a million different concepts that you can engrave here, but the first one I think of is someone's name. If they're that far into cooking and you put their name on their utensil, you change their attitude toward it. The perception just goes up dramatically. And yet at a show or at events, you've got to do something that you can put it on fairly quickly. And how we have pioneered this for years is, well, if you buy the spoon today, I'll put whosever name you want on it. If you could put their signature, that'd be ideal, but often they're not there at the moment, so you have to basically figure out something else you can do. But you could put the world's greatest cook, you could put the best cook grandma on the planet. There's all kinds of things that you could personalize this with. But then I saw these today, and I've never seen a utensil done with the hand chiseled, hand cut kind of look. And I just went, oh, wow. That's just absolutely, really, really attractive. And yet, it'll generally just be hanging up somewhere in the kitchen as well most of the time. But if there's something personalized on here and written on here, all of a sudden the item becomes more palatable. It's the thing that somebody then wants to buy. Now, a lot of things in business can be done because you have enough money to throw at it. But most people don't start an enterprise that way. And so learning to see what you need to see is the first step. Then learning how to do it is the next step. It's kind of where Ed is right now on his old badge. To learn to carve that badge is got to do it in a line drawing first and do it in line rendering. Then he could learn to sculpt it as well. we've had several in the network who've copied large-scale carvings in 3D or 2 dimensions of police officers and their badges, because that's their whole life. That's what they did for a lot of their living. This is called bubble lettering, and I use bubble lettering at a show a lot. I personalize a lot of knives this way. I personalize a lot of products when you can see something that just needs one more thing. If you can render a name in bubble letters quickly, you really can change your impact with the equipment. So I thought what I'd do is do a show between now and the first of the year. I'm going to try and put a show together of how to use freehand bubble lettering to accomplish something really quickly at a moment, any given moment. And most of you have not learned this, so I think it'll be a fun little exercise. And every time I play with some concept or some idea, when I first bump into it, I let it bang around in my head a lot. All of you that know me know that I hear voices. I have a whole committee in my brain that helps me evaluate and reevaluate and rethink things I'm chewing on, ideas that I'm trying to really consider. When I went to Jerusalem with Fred in 1994, he was the founder of the Utah Shakespearean Festival, and we were on the trip with Jack to Jerusalem together, and some of you remember that. It didn't take very long to build an association with Fred, because we were together for 10 days. And then he's known Jack for a long time, has been on the board of directors. So it wasn't too hard for me to suggest that we do a really nice presidential crystal whenever he had an extraordinary thank you to give. And so I took the logo of the Shakespearean Festival and I put the name in here that they were giving it to. I found a really nice graphic border in one of our border books from Dover and made this pattern. Now, from that point on, I have sandblasted several of these a year for Fred for I don't know how long. And it's that large-scale crystal book, just so gorgeous when I get it done. And it's come into my life last week. I did the crystal piece going to Washington, D.C. that I've done also for years, one after another. And all it was the initiation of the thought, and I wondered if someone would be interested with this, and then I bother to follow through, design it and follow through and pull it into my life. And to me, what this represents is this sewing together, this threading of the needle, and then sewing your thoughts together to the point that you really come up with something. And I saw this morning, and I couldn't resist. If that's not one of the greatest chicken shots I've ever seen in my life, is opportunity in there, and we always hear opportunities knocking, but you got to go look for it. You got to go look for it. And most people's lives are represented by this upheaval from every direction that just sends your 1 minute things are okay. In fact, I was talking to this young lady about that very subject today. I said, 1 minute everything's fine, and the next minute everything's not fine. So let's see if we can build you a stirring rod for your imagination and creativity. How many of you remember who this is? I preach about this guy a lot and have for 10 years. Jack Solomon's favorite author, favorite composer. And he was rather successful in his career. How many of you know what the spot price of gold was today? It's hit a whole new low. I can't wait for Jack to come back from from Arizona. We're going to sit down and have a little get together on his collection again. And it was $10.50 an ounce today, so it's lost a lot of value. Everything's coming down. Price of oil was $40 a barrel today, $40 a barrel. And for the American productivity of oil, it has to be $90 a barrel. So seeing what you see and then understanding. That's funny how I can literally tell somebody what we're doing or what I'm trying to teach them, and then I usually will bother to come back to the subject a day or two later, and they still don't understand what I'm really saying. So figuring out your place in the economy is what you have to do. You can't trade well unless you know how you fit in this human nature experience. Our whole world is custom personalization. Custom means it's made one at a time, usually on order for an individual customer. Personalization is, it just needs one more thing. Whatever it is you see. I do a kind of a mental exercise often. I'll go into a store and I'll try and see all the items quickly, scan the items quickly that could be engraved with our equipment. And once you start looking at that and thinking in that direction, then the potential starts to show up more. There's a million other opportunities out there, gang, but this one is ours. And custom personalization has been around forever. I wish I knew who made this helmet. I collect the pictures of them. They're just absolutely stunning. Centuries old and hand chiseled, hand hammered, and to this degree is unbelievable to me. Talk about serious engraving work capacity. And no power tools, folks. This is hammer and chisel, period. And what that does is stimulate me into thinking, well, when something's done that well, and they basically were contriving spirals already, see how they compose this thing, and they put those spirals in to help them fill up this space so that it was ornamentation somewhere. You can't let this image get out of your life. You need to capture this image, especially if it's something that hits you a little. If it touches your mentality, then you say, okay, all of this is a thought. This is one pearl. And what I got to do is thread the needle and hang on to this so that it then comes back and impacts me again and again and again until I tie it together with something. I use a lot of engraved crystal over my lifetime, and the source of the engraving, the styles and what could be put on here, every time I see something that I think it would fit in my world somehow, I pay attention to it. I get a sample, I have it around, I keep it constantly mixing with me. I found a sample yesterday, a little round bevel, about a 4-inch round bevel piece that I'm going to use for the university president now in January, because I'm going after another school to do some work for. And when you can see something that really catches your eye, and then you know where you can get it, you start to begin to figure out what the price range kind of is on wholesale and stuff like this, and then this is the ones I do so much of. And when you can see that this is the stuff I can pick up, and then I can do the etching or the engraving or sandblasting or airbrushing or hand engraving on, you really open up so much potential, so much opportunity. And every piece of topmost line is engravable. That's what they do. That's their business. Now that individual, I wanted to see if you knew who it was, this Rudyard, old Rudyard Kipling. And he wrote this verse, and this is Jack Solomon's favorite verse. I've got it all over his life. He's had me do it again and again and again for him. They keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I know, all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. Knew and who have to rhyme, right? I give them all a rest. I send them over land and sea. I send them east and west. But after they've worked for me, I give them all a rest. I let them rest from 9 till 5, for I am busy then, and as well as breakfast, lunch, and tea, for they are hungry men. But different folk have different views. I know a person small. She keeps 10 million serving men who get no rest at all. She sends them abroad on her own affairs. From the second she opens her eyes, 1 million hows, 2 million wheres, and 7 million whys. Oh, it is so fun. If you could measure every idea against who, what, where, why, and who, you can really start to pry open the lid of opportunity. But it just takes thinking about it. Jack and I call it pondering. It's a kind of a silly term, but you have to chew on it a little. You have to think about how it fits. You have to look for the avenue that it would maybe work and trade well. And that usually involves human nature. And the better you can get at that, the better you'll create yourself. You'll see something that no one else will see, and then you start expressing that, turn that into your life and your living, and you're done. You're going to come up with something that can just captivate every day for the rest of your life. And what a way to grow old. So, what do you persist with? What is the part? We all know persistence is, but persist with what? Dreams are renewable no matter what, our age or condition. There are still untapped possibilities with us and new beauty waiting to be born. So the gathering of ideas is what I'm hoping this show tonight will represent for you. I don't know how good you are at doing it, but I'm going to try and encourage you to turn up the burner and do even more gathering. Because every given day you have things happen, things come up, opportunities swift through your brain, little whispers show up, and then if you don't gather them, if you don't put them someplace, if you don't nurture them and cultivate them, they're never going to turn into a tapestry. And if you're playing around on the web at all and watching the streams, Google Plus has such a sequence that's so strong with fairly smart people that are putting things up that are pretty thoughtful. And not everything has impact, but some things do. But if you just see it and say, oh, that's a great, clever way to say it, but that's all you do with it, then you've barely touched the potential. You need to find a way to track and capture everything, all these ideas, and put them one place. Now, for years I did it in my journals. I would capture everything, and in the last 2 days I've gone through boxes that have had my old paper journal stuff in them. And talk about, oh my good Lord, you can remember everything that you put in your journal. You can. You bothered to take it off of the table of the world and put it in your own private place, and then have a chance to go back through it once in a while and see what you thought then compared to what you think now. You should begin to come up with the concept that said, you know, if I had one idea and then I could figure out the next and figure out the next and figure out the next, all of a sudden you start to really have opportunity show up. Because everything needs just one more thing. Almost everything can be personalized somehow. And when I moved from wood to cast iron and started doing stuff for scouting, I would put people's names right here. Then I used to do engravings on the bottom side of Dutch ovens and fire these cooking iron hot plates. God, they were fun to do. You can take a number 8 round and just bang out some really neat stuff and drop it on even these kinds of items. But you can also do one more thing right here. Robert has made his life building guitars. But if you can put B.B. King's name in ivory in his guitar, guess what you've just accomplished? There's just almost nothing out there that doesn't need that custom personalization touch. If someone spent this kind of money on this kind of car, you don't think they're going to not want some little custom thing put on that car. All in the world you have to do is suggest it. No to suggest it. Just look and say, God, what a good-looking car. It just needs one more thing. And the second you lay that comment down, somebody that's invested this heavily in their little play toy, they are really hooked from then on. What? I've got everything on it that you can get. So you do learn to trade from, I'm doing what I'm doing, all of us are doing what we're doing, but what you want to concentrate now is on your story, your individual contribution. What's the difference? And you got to go, this is the hard part of the discussion, you've got to do some work. You've got to come in when we talk about that 2 hours a day and you're consistently making the effort. The effort is worth a ton of theory. You just have to make it from the dream stage to where something is actually happening. And I call that the passion prescription. If every person within the range of my voice tonight doesn't tomorrow ask, what do I most need now next in my life? What should I next be doing that's most important? And you literally ask all eternity for some advice and counsel. I think it comes. I really believe deeply that the ideas that next needed most in your life show up almost without us doing much more than asking. And once you begin to see that, I saw this week, and I've never seen it said this way. We're all humans. Act like it. And if the world isn't absolutely going through this unbelievable, it's literally turned into a war zone, but it's a philosophical war too. It's an attitude thing of where what I do is important and what I believe is important, but yours is not. And I was struck by the fact that it was Hindu, Buddhist, Muslim, atheist, Christians, and Jews. That kind of covers the base, doesn't it? Now, I don't have a clue what I'm going to do with this yet, but I pulled it off and it's in my journal. And I guarantee you, I will triple guarantee you, at some point this is going to be something I can use. I'll go in and re-letter it and redo it, but make it more mine. But I guarantee you that idea hit me so hard, and I went, okay, if I didn't ever see it again or didn't do anything with it again, it's not going to have any impact. But when it pops you that hard, then you just start to have an idea. There's something about I got to do is bend that even further. That's an initial concept, but there's got to be more to it. There's got to be something more that I can do with this than just this. And that's where the pondering, that's where the chewing on it, that's where the staying with it really does turn it into something really different. And what it'll do is that thought will collide with another one. And when it does, I'm going to bring it up again and show you. It will come up in a different way, and then I'll be able to use it. I pulled some slides off quickly because this guy said what you need to do is think differently, and there's some really fun, these were his proposals to help you think differently. Ben Franklin went for a daily swim in London's chilly river, the Thames. Theodore Roosevelt went skinny dipping in the cold waters of the Potomac River. Being submerged in water at various temperatures for physical and mental benefits in ancient practice. The Greek Hippocrates said that water therapy allies lassitude, physical or mental weakness. When you take a cold shower or swim, the shock waves cause your blood to move to the core of your body and bathes your brain and vital organs in fresh blood. Finish your showers with turning the temperature as cold as possible to give your brain an invigorated boost. If you're brave, you can try an ice bath. Oh, don't try an ice bath. Oh, that sounds just horrible. But what they're talking about is try something different. Do something different. All of our lives are dug into such a rut, we just don't get to anything different. This one little slide ought to just absolutely tickle some of you. The next one's try hunger strike. Pythagoras, the mathematician, the ancient Greek philosopher and mathematician, would systematically starve himself for 40 days. He taught his disciples his strict water-only fast in the belief that it boosted mental perception and creativity. Modern students have shown that fasting increases your brain-delivered neurotropic factor, which aids in memory function and can stimulate the growth of new brain cells. Acute stress caused by fasting also causes the brain to release endorphins and leads to feelings of well-being and euphoria. You know, somehow starving doesn't lead me to euphoria. I don't know how that. Two interesting fasts or intermittent fasts where you alternate it and abstain from food over these different periods of time. Then calorie restriction where you drop the number of calories. The next one's Cry Me a River. If you want to be a creative as Steve Jobs, start letting your tears flow. Jobs' authorized biography reveals that he cried incessantly when he was frustrated and couldn't get his way. Also happy tears when he had experiences he described as purity of spirit. Crying actually reduces stress. Tears remove stress-causing hormones and lowers your manganese levels, which regulates your mood. Emotional release of crying also leads to mental balance, a sense of calm after the storm. Rather than suppressing the wave of emotion that triggers the tears, let them flow. The catharsis will lead to mental clarity. Being a dropout doesn't mean you despise education. Rather, you have a thirst for knowledge that is hindered because your goals don't align with your institution. The list of notable dropouts includes Gates and Zuckerberg and Elizabeth Holmes. They all reveal 3 key lessons: being addicted, auto-addicted, identifying patterns, and making successful predictions will help you to make bold decisions. Now, I have showed and taught this sequence at least for 10 years straight. I believe deeply in this identifying patterns. When you can spot a pattern of productivity and it's your idea leads from one thing to the next, that connecting pattern is where all the success is. This is an interesting one. Don't rush to write it down. J.K. Rowling's $1 billion Harry Potter series came to her as she sat on a train. She was too embarrassed to ask anyone for a pen, so she just let her mind wander for hours. Instead of drawing premature conclusions on her character, she gave her ideas time to marinate, develop, and evolve. She unknowingly engaged her mind in the creative stage called incubation. Have you heard that word before? It's when your unconscious mind synthesizes all the information you encountered through your conscious work. The mental detachment and mindless wandering allows all of your knowledge to marinate, leading to that light bulb aha moment. Let your ideas set until they gel before taking any major action, making any final decisions. That's really good counsel. Really good counsel. Now, I happen to think that what you're doing when you marinate it and incubate it, you're tapping into the entire collective knowledge base of the universe, which has got to be just massive. And that when you link that way and you're asking the questions with your intuition and the answers, or your imagination, then the answers come to you in the form of intuition. And they do come to you. If you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a month, get married. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. If you want happiness for a lifetime, help others. Help others. and just bring up it needs one more thing, and all of a sudden you'll find more opportunity than you ever even realized. I started the Digital Journal community 2 years ago, and it has 90 members now. But I wonder tonight how many of you actually still really use it. It's on my phone, and I can grab, screen capture anything off my phone and throw it into my journal. And mine is Dr. Lou's Dreams and Ideas, and it is massive. I've just got so much in there. But every element I've pulled off the board of the world. I pulled it into my own individual usage and capacity. And I just sit and think, God, if you haven't developed your own mental studio, your own one place where you can go to your most centered place and do all your creating and mix your thinking, your good ideas one after another, keep looking for how in the world do they fit, okay? Now that collective site, my journal, my Google Plus journal, all you got to do is put it in and search for it, and it'll take you right to it. If you're not a member, please sign up so that you'll get anything I put in there. But then go through them in sequence. They're all in sequence to teach you how to actually do this, how to make a journal, a digital journal in your life. So that it's 1,000 times easier to keep it now than it has ever been. And I just think, oh, what a valuable thing. Because you don't know yet what you're going to think of that can change the course of the remaining years of your life. You've got something incredibly good to share now, so figure out, okay, what does that mean? How am I going to do that? When I put up this remember thing, I got as much reaction out of this post as I've had. And so I'm going to do more of remember some stuff that's more important. And then I'm going to include this concept that will then match each of my shows every week. Because I've just about got 52 shows that I can do in any given year. And I'm going to standardize them a little more and tighten them up a little more, and then put the shows in place on the web and let them go long after I'm dead and gone. Because we're doing something, guys, here that's so significant. The part that we're hanging on to, the part that we're sharing, just isn't the handmade things that are going to be threatened now with the new world. It's a way of doing. It's a way. Art is a way, not just a thing. And when those thoughts come to you, those ideas come to you, what I ought to do is this, or what I ought to do is that. The idea is to pursue and stay with that concept and try and attract every other thing that would fit, that might help you actually pull it off. I just saw these pictures. Oh, shoot. I think these were around 1995. But I have aged a little since this time. And it's fun to see the differences. I actually enjoy being my age. But knowing what I did was stay with it. It's all I've done right. Everything else I've messed up 53 times over. But when you find something you love playing with, the power pen and the eggshell carving started everything out for me. But now it's expanded into your life and into your world. And what are you going to do with it? What are you going to put into place? What are you going to package and then put back out on the web and share? There's got to be something that you can do. But most of it is not entertained long enough. You've got to do it and 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 do it again. I've had so many people say they carved 2 or 3 eggshells and they never sold them, or nothing happened. And I sit and think, when did anything worthwhile ever happen with the first 2 or 3 of anything? The productivity is what's amazing. When we saw the Norman Rockwell collection and realized he'd done 323 months magazine issues, or weeks, I guess that would be, 323 weeks. On a Saturday Evening Post. That's just a horrendous effort. unbelievable effort to master that individual skill. And I'm sorry it's uphill, but downhill is not the best way. I was a kid when Esther Williams came out with her swimming routines in the movies that they built around her Olympic skills. And when you realize that it would take quite a period of time, I don't think you could package Esther Williams and sell swimming movies anymore. But talk about a dissimilar, unlikely combination is what actually did work. And the beginning of the thought of, well, I wonder if this will work, I wonder if this will happen, I wonder if I can do this, is why I think it's fun to get together. We really do impact each other, and I just can't thank you enough for all your contribution each of you do. And if you just realize that you've got something yet that you're supposed to accomplish, something yet that you can put into place, put it on the web, and then leave it there for the future, you're going to make a difference. And most of us don't even realize how much of a difference that really ends up becoming. It's just impossible to realize that maybe today I encouraged a couple of people. Maybe tonight I encouraged a couple of people. Maybe you can encourage. When the urge comes along and the thought comes along and it hits your brain, don't walk past it. Make the effort to pass it on, okay? Your miracle hereafter will be found in your doing. When we can see that what we're after is this unique thought, this unique idea, this something that no one else has yet considered, and you begin searching for that, that's when things begin to open up and the opportunity begins to show up for you. So, our master circles, I think, the idea of growing into something that you've seriously specialized in and you've done well in the marketplace is what we're after. And doing it together is what's made the INE Network succeed as far as I can tell. Alrighty. Well, we've gotten through another session. This is my favorite stuff. This is stuff I like to play with the most, and you guys all know it. Anything that I missed, anything that you want to throw on the table or share?
Yeah, I saw a statistic within the past week. You were talking about it in the beginning, getting started and and investing and the statistic was out there that for an entrepreneur to get started in a business, they said the average was a $15,000 investment, and I don't think it takes that much, but eventually you will have that much invested in your business with equipment and supplies,
training, everything.
Yeah. So it's probably pretty close, but you can actually start making money on a lot less than that if you really want to.
We're putting together this new Patriot Kit to help these veterans get a hobby into a business thing started. And we're really going to lean into that hard after the first of the year. And I've been trying to think, what could they do out of measuring against all the things that I did when I first started. And I'm going to try and start them with signage. Making custom little signs and plaques is, with the high speed with PowerPen, is an absolute slam dunk. There's nothing to it. And yet, plaques and quotes and signage out into the economy is a pretty pervasive thing. It's like the kitchenware thing. We're going to throw that into it as well. Because you can go to the stores and buy Oriental or mass-produced kind of kitchenware that is wood and then personalize it, so you could sell a lot of that stuff by buying it wholesale and then adding the custom engraving. So if you can think of ways that you know that are pretty predictable and quite easy, let Tam and I know what you're thinking, because that's where we want to start these kids. They're not going to be doing motorcycle engraving. They're not going to be doing high-end jewelry. All the stuff that you guys have learned, they can't learn to carve the eggshells quickly like Nick does. And to do the calligraphy engraving on crystal and perfume and wine, you know what that takes too. So we got to find something that is just a slam dunk for sure, super easy things that they could do that actually could start generating income for them.
No, Lou, with the stencil film, all they have to do is be able to trace
Learn to trace it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the secret of the whole thing, isn't it? You can engrave car windows if you know how to trace a line. Mel's got his up there. I think I'm going to come and engrave with you, Mel.
Well, we did a show the weekend before Thanksgiving, and there was a dealer, couple of winery dealers there, and I picked up a bottle. It's going to be for my daughter.
Yeah.
That's what I did at the show.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. Merry Christmas, Tiffany. Look at that.
And I got a lot of response out of it. I was able to engrave a couple knives on the spot.
Uh-huh.
And we had a pretty good show.
Good.
Being able to spot engrave right there.
Well, if you can just remember everything you see, think it just needs one more thing. Oh, we have so much fun. We'll be going through stores or whatever, and we've used it so much over the years. We can usually say one more. It just needs one more thing immediately, because that personalized segment of the economy is not what many people do as a business.
Yeah,
It's not the bottle of wine where you make your money, it's the engraving on it.
Yeah. The toughest thing that I have ever had to do was to decide what I wanted to engrave on any given item.
Yes. Is that not the case for everybody? I think that's what everybody struggles with.
And I've got about 140,000 graphics here, and choosing one to put on an item is very daunting.
Well, at least you know you're going through the same thing that we all go through.
And you do it every time.
Yep.
No matter how long you've been doing
That's
it.
kind of how it works, isn't it?
Lou,
Nick?
that may be the key. It may not be a matter of finding which item. It may be a matter of creating a small book or something with what to engrave on the different items.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe that is the bigger issue. That's a good observation, Nick. That might be exactly right. So we say, this is this, but this is suggestions of what you could put on it, and help them begin to learn to think, yeah, that is a really good thought.
That's another piece of the package.
Piece of the package. I'm trying to put everything in this that we can think of that would really help, and then we're looking at private funding that will begin to pay for the kits and help them get going. And then we just met with a guy that has this whole veterans program a couple of weeks ago, and he's suggesting that the veteran then, as they begin to make it work, could reinvest in the concept and pay some of it back or contribute some of it, so then that we would extend the resources and be able to help even more veterans. But that'll include the money and also the training. What we're hoping to do is that when we find a veteran in your area that needs basic training and help and get started, there'll be money in that kit that will then pay you to spend some time with them to help them get started and get going. They had last night on Fox News, they had a gal that was, she's doing that. She's just helping veterans get a business started right now. She's been doing it a little while, and she's up for some national award today. And then that crazy, terrible accident. I don't know if we're going to settle this country down or not. It just gets bloodier and messier every day.
Stop watching the news.
Oh, gotta quit watching the news. That one just captured your brain today.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah.
I have something that I picked up and that I've been practicing a little bit with, and it's really cheap. And that's I picked up it's a Crayola tracing board.
Yeah, lighting board, light table.
It's a light-up tracing board, and all it takes is some batteries. And I found it in the kids section at Walmart for a couple of dollars. And what it does is it's like those light boards that you see in NASCO and all those other kind of things. And you put the batteries in there, and it'll light up, and you can use it to trace artwork with. And that's what I've been practicing with.
Yeah, that's extremely good tool.
And it's really cheap, so that's something that if the veterans don't have a lot of money to spend, if they pick this up and they could practice tracing, with this lighted board, it's only going to cost a couple of for the batteries, and that's something that I've been practicing with. So it's just an idea. It even comes with some tracing paper and stuff like that,
Nick?
And that's the thing with that, something like that. You don't have to have a copier or a printer for the tracing film. With something like that, you would be able to trace it directly onto the tracing film. I do that with my leaves. I have a printout of them, and then I just put the film on top of it and trace it out quick.
I just go to a glass door and use that. Use that for years. I just put it up on the glass door and trace it out, and bang, I can get it. All I got to do is get enough light behind it, and then you can see what you're doing. So
I've got a Lexan clipboard.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, that works the same way.
Yeah. And
really handy. Really handy tricks.
Black ballpoint pen.
Oh, no. You got to use a Sharpie.
My design,
You
Sharpie
got to use
bleed.
Sharpie. You can't use a ballpoint. No, that's illegal to use ballpoint pen.
Sharpies bleed.
No, not mine. Those little tiny technical.
Hey, you're out there in the desert where it's dry.
Well, I don't know if we can believe a guy that uses a Samsung phone.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Just use a
I was
pencil.
showing that off today to the doc.
Oh, did you ever find it?
Huh? No, I did find it, but I haven't been able to open it up. So I had to do a hard wash, a hard reset, and I lost a whole bunch of information that just killed me a couple of days ago. I just couldn't stand any longer. I'd been to everybody. I've been to Samsung, I've been to T-Mobile, I've been to everybody. And the interesting thing is if you set up your phone and lock it and you don't remember the password, you are screwed. And they can't not save you. And I'm going, but I forgot. God, I can't think what I was so excited to get it finally.
Well, I saw a deal the other day that a guy made his password, the word, incorrect. So anything he put in, it'd respond, your password is incorrect.
Oh, God, that's stupid. Oh, that's just horrible. Well, see, I've got McAfee as my backup security on it. And the second McAfee, it wouldn't read my thumbprint anymore. Then McAfee thought I'd stolen my own phone. And they literally sent me 25 notices saying, hey, this guy's trying to get into your phone. And I'm going, no, wait a minute, it's me. This guy is me. And I couldn't convince anybody that it was an okay thing. And every time it would boil back down, well, we can reset it if you know what password you used.
That's what happens when you sand your
Could not
fingerprints off.
remember what it was. So start over. So
You're not
and
supposed to use
starting over.
sandpaper on your fingerprints.
That's what happens. I'm wanted by so many agencies. I've ground my fingerprints off, and
We understand.
yeah, I know you guys understand. I know. We all
Every
know
once
too
in a while
much
we
about
check
each
the-
other, don't we?
We check the posters at the post office.
We're
Well,
still
stay
alive
busy
there,
and
huh?
stay out of trouble, everybody. I'm gonna run. I got
It's no
more to
fun
do
staying
tonight.
out of trouble. Just don't
Thanks
get caught.
for hanging in there, and appreciate playing with you a bunch. Good night.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Right.
Hi, Tammy. The puppies are growing like bad weeds. They're 12 weeks old and about 20 pounds each. Oh, she left.
Good night.
I've got 2 dachshund puppies. Only they're about 4 months old now.
Yep.
They're driving me crazy.
Well, we rescued 5 puppies when they were about 3 days old. They were abandoned alongside the road, and my wife bottle fed them, and now they're 12 weeks old and just full of little bundles of energy, and they each weigh about 20 pounds, and it's unreal. My big dog, Scarlet, she waits for him to go outside and play. It's a riot. I'm glad I've got a fenced yard.
That's my problem. I don't have a fence. I do have a fenced yard, but it's fenced with the wire, and the openings, the square openings, are just big enough so the dogs can go through it. And they do that, and I end up with my neighbors carrying the dogs over to me to say, "Isn't this yours?" And it's embarrassing. So I'm going crazy lately trying to figure out another way to handle it. But anyway.
Well, I spent a little bit of money and had a 6-foot privacy fence put around the place.
Oh boy. No.
It definitely defined the boundaries here. Pissed a lot of people off. They were used to having this nice open space that
Yeah.
everybody used.
Yeah.
Well, oops. They didn't buy it. I did.
Yeah. That's right.
Oh, well.
Well, I think I'm going to call it a night, and I will talk to you next week.
Yeah, you have a good one, Joni.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.